Carol Marcondes, eu, a Samantha, né, e a Ana.
Eu faço uma participação especial.
Isso. Luiz, de vez em quando, é o bombril.
Bombrilzão.
E nós estamos precisando de mais corações que se juntem, né, ao nosso time, à nossa causa, de acolher. Hi, and just saying some messages for joining our team as a volunteer. Okay? A gente, então, está pedindo, né, essa participação de umas pessoas com a gente. E eu só queria dar uma breve informação, trazer algumas informações gerais de como que é a educação infantil, né, como que é o que nós fazemos lá naquela salinha. Alguns pais aqui já sabem, que já participaram com a gente. Mas só para vocês terem uma ideia, porque às vezes vocês acham, nossa, mas eu nunca fui evangelizadora infantil, não tenho ideia como que isso acontece. Então, só para a gente dar uma ideia para vocês pensarem um pouco, refletirem e se sentirem no coração, procurarem mais informações com a gente, comigo ou com qualquer pessoa ali do time da evangelização. Então, só para vocês terem uma ideia, eu queria trazer uma questão do Livro dos Espíritos, questão 379, sobre quem é a criança. Então, Kardec vai perguntar, é tão desenvolvido quanto o de um adulto, o espírito que anima o corpo de uma criança? Pode até ser mais, se mais progrediu. Apenas a imperfeição dos órgãos infantis o impede de se manifestar. Obra de conformidade com o instrumento de que se dispõe. E a questão 383, Kardec pergunta, qual para este a utilidade de passar pelo estado da infância? E essa questão é muito importante. E a resposta é, encarnado com o objetivo de se aperfeiçoar, o espírito durante esse período é mais acessível às impressões que recebe, capazes de lhe auxiliarem no adiantamento para que devem retribuir os incumbidos de educá-los. Então a gente vê aqui que um espírito que anima um corpinho infantil, né, nós vemos a criança não como um adulto mínimo e nem como uma criança que não tem condição de aprender. Nós vemos ali um espírito imortal, nós conversamos com o espírito imortal, então não importa a idade, pode ser um bebezinho, pode estar na barriga da mãe, pode estar com 15 anos, 14 anos, a gente está conversando com o espírito imortal. Para quê? Para auxiliá-lo nesse seu programa de reencarnação, de aperfeiçoamento. Né? Então, o espírito imortal herdeiro de si mesmo, certo? Porque nós viemos com as nossas tendências, nós trazemos as nossas tendências, mas também as qualidades que já desenvolvemos. Tanto que na pergunta 379, ele até diz, né, pode até ser mais evoluído do que os pais. Não é verdade? Mas ainda não tem condição de manifestar-se totalmente. Então nós vemos aquele espírito, as suas tendências, as suas qualidades e procuramos auxiliá-lo no seu processo de evolução. Então ele já teve múltiplas experiências, então é um espírito antigo, desenvolveu habilidades e aprendizados, pode ter necessidades e imperfeições a serem superadas, e o evangelizador está sempre olhando quais são as tendências daquele espírito para auxiliá-lo, reencarna nas condições necessárias para o seu autoaprimoramento. Então, falamos um pouquinho da criança. E o evangelizador? Quem é? O objetivo do evangelizador espírita é favorecer vivências transformadoras, que contribuam para a formação moral do ser humano com base cristã. Função essencial: aproxima a mensagem espírita da mente, do coração e das mãos das crianças e jovens, estimulando a pensar, a sentir e a agir segundo os princípios cristãos. Isso é muito importante, porque não é só teoria, é prática. A gente fala, a gente dá teoria, a gente questiona a criança, a gente dá exemplos de Jesus e a gente vive aquilo que foi ensinado para a criança através das atividades. Tá? A postura e os princípios devem atuar com fraternidade, com amorosidade, com coerência doutrinária, conectando os ensinamentos à realidade dos evangelizandos. Então a gente traz exemplos concretos da vidinha deles, da escola, da casa, da família. Né? O evangelizador é mais que um transmissor, ele atua como um mediador entre a doutrina espírita e o evangelizando, e organiza os espaços de aprendizagem e interação. Muito bem, então esse é o papel do evangelizador. quais as qualidades para você ser um evangelizador espírita? Sensibilidade, criatividade, empatia, amizade, responsabilidade, alegria, conhecimento e zelo. Acredito que todos vocês têm essas características. Então, é a gente se divertir com as crianças, mas tendo responsabilidade sobre a nossa tarefa, buscar conhecimento sempre para a gente poder auxiliar a nós mesmos e aí sim a gente conseguir auxiliar o evangelizando. Então, a formação é contínua, estamos sempre estudando, a gente se reúne toda terça-feira, a cada 15 dias, para a gente conversar, para a gente ver como é que está a tarefa, para a gente poder se melhorar, aprender mais, tá? Então, está sempre em preparo doutrinário e pedagógico. E as qualidades que elevam a evangelização são exatamente essas, né? A doutrinária, que é a fidelidade aos princípios espíritas, né? Ter um ambiente fraterno, acolhedor, ter estratégias criativas, é isso que a gente aprende, a gente divide, a gente compartilha isso, e se organizar. E acima de tudo, né? E aí eu vou parafrasear Paulo, lá em Coríntios, capítulo 2.
Vamos falar de Paulo hoje.
Quando existe boa vontade, somos bem aceitos, com os recursos que temos, e pouco importa o que não temos. Então, se tiverem boa vontade e sentirem no coração esse apelo de serem evangelizadores espíritas, que qualquer um de nós podemos ser, venham conversar comigo ou com qualquer pessoa ali da evangelização. Estamos muito felizes, ficaremos muito felizes de auxiliá-los. E a espiritualidade é tão boa, né? Como diz Emmanuel, quando nós temos alguma situação, algum problema na nossa vida, qualquer situação que nós pedimos ajuda, aquilo já está resolvido. Né? Quando a gente pensa que aquele problema não vai ser resolvido, a solução já chegou na frente. Isso é tão verdade que a Bruna está aí, olha. Né? Lá no Brasil, né? E já se voluntariou como evangelizadora. Então, quem mais quiser se juntar a nós, será uma alegria muito grande auxiliar vocês a entender melhor o papel do evangelizador e da criança. Tá bom? Gratidão a todos. Sorry I spoke in Portuguese.
It's all right.
I just would like to
I like
give...
listening.
You like listening? Good. I guess I'll let you.
100%.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry,
Of
guys.
course.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Sonia.
Bye-bye. You're welcome.
Right, switching back to English. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, we'll start with our text, and then we'll talk about our beloved friend Paul and more about it. Okay, so I chose the text 56 from the Living Spring. Be born again now. It's a passage from John. I'll tell you the truth. No one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again. Born in renewal. We're going to talk about that today. Nature holds valuable lessons in this respect. Years pass with mathematical precision. Nevertheless, each day is a new day. Since people have 365 opportunities per year to learn and to start again, how many opportunities for moral renewal will there be in the blessed period of an entire lifetime? Keep what is good and just, beautiful and worthy from the past, but do not hold on to the darkness and detritus, even when they are disguised in enchanting clothing. In your endeavors of true fraternity, do your own share. Do not shoulder your spirit benefactors and friends with it. Each new hour may bring readjustment. If possible, do not put off till later the ties of peace and love you can create now by replacing the heavy shackles of disaffection. For the procrastinator as me. It is not easy to break our old preconceptions about the world, or open our hearts and forgive those who have hurt us. Nonetheless, the best antidote against the poison of aversion is our goodwill towards those that hate or misunderstand us. While we are holding up in our defensive fortress, our adversary thinks of ways to come up with more ammunition against us. However, if we face the situation fearlessly and calmly, showing a new attitude in the conflict, the idea of peace replaces the dark fermentation of war inside and around us. Has someone offended you? Exercise understanding once more. Has someone misunderstood you? Persevere in demonstrating the best intentions. Revitalize yourself each day in the crystal clear and incessant stream of the good. Do not forget the Master's word. No one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again. Be born again right now regarding your objectives, resolutions, and attitudes. Working to overcome the obstacles around you and anticipating the victory over yourself in due time. It is better to help today than to be helped tomorrow. Let us pray. So let's raise our thoughts, our minds, our feelings to God, to our Master and Brother Jesus, to our guardian angels and the entirety and all the spirits that guide all the activities, in special this activity of talking and reflecting about the Jesus teachings in the sunny Sunday morning. And be grateful for this opportunity. Exercise our gratitude beyond this opportunity today, but every single opportunity that are presented to us in those 365 days of this year, and all the possibilities in our entire journey. Not only here incarnated as we are in this earth, but in all the past and future opportunities that we will have and we have had. And let's ask that we continue with our minds, with our will, connected to God's will, to God's wisdom, so that we can use the reflections today, and each one of us can learn and apply according to their own strength and own possibilities to become a better human and to become a better immortal spirit now and in all the opportunities of the future. So be it. Okay, so today we are going to talk about mind, and we're going to talk about renewal. And the renewal of the mind, and how the renewal of the mind is the key mechanism for us to transform ourselves. However, there is an important point which always catches my attention. It speaks to me. Because we're going to talk about Paul today, Paul of Tarsus. And how a specific passage from this book, Paul and Stephen, from Emmanuel, Chico Xavier, and how he struggled. And how he is, at one point, discouraged. Because I think that brings Paul closer to me. Because I feel discouraged sometimes. But the important is, how do I recognize myself discouraged and I lift myself up? So we're going to talk about this passage, and we're going to talk about using this passage, and we're going to talk about a passage from Paul as well, when he writes to the Romans, and how we take care of our mind, and what are the things that this world is inviting us to change or not to change and to reside. There is another, what I found interesting and what kind of speaks to me when we were talking about discouragement and when we were exhausted, and it was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like I feel with no power. There is another passage that I encourage all of you to read on the book Good News, Boa Nova, chapter 8, that talks about take heart, or bom ânimo. When our nosso ânimo, our heart is kind of fragile. And there's a beautiful passage here that speaks very closely to Paul when Bartholomew, one of the disciples of Jesus, was the same way. It's like, Jesus, it's like I can't. Like, I don't understand this word anymore. Maybe your gospel is for the future, but this word is doomed to fail. I'm struggling. And Jesus guided Bartholomew and explained the importance for each one of us to renew our minds and keep moving forward. And we're going to talk more about those specifics. Cool? So this is the passage that Paul writes to Romans, saying, do not conform to the pattern of this world. We're going to talk about the pattern, and we're going to try to identify what is the pattern of this world. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. So let's remind ourselves what happened with Paul. So Paul was Saul before, and then he encountered Jesus in the way to Damascus. So what is that encounter with Jesus, with Saul and Jesus? That was just. It was at the beginning or the end when Saul encountered Jesus. Is that the beginning of Paul's journey or the end of Paul's journey? Just the beginning. He just saw Jesus, right? He was just starting to say, okay, now I understand who you are. Tell me what to do. And there was a lot that happened after that. And I encourage you to read the book. Did Paul, it was a breeze? Oh, super easy. Everybody accepted. Everything was good. People are calling him to say the message. No, it wasn't like that. And we're going to talk about a specific passage that brought Paul so close to me that can happen to every single one of us, and how he was guided and how he was able to transform and overcome that passage. But I would like to bring a reflection. How do we feel when we first, maybe we encounter a beautiful text from Chico Xavier, or when we all of us, we encounter the Spiritism doctrine? How do we feel about that? We feel good? Yeah.
Curious.
Curious.
Inspired.
Inspired.
Positive.
Lot of work, right? So the beginning, it's kind of, oh my God, I found Spiritism has all, or for me, it speaks to my heart, has all the energy, has all the information, I have the energy, but then I start seeing a little bit of the challenges. Oh, I didn't know about this law, or I didn't know about this virtue. Oh, I didn't know about this, about myself. So we start in that transformation. Sometimes, what happened with Paul, when we encounter and we start to not only reading the books, but trying to apply the knowledge, would you agree that we might feel a little bit lonely?
Yes.
Because people like saying, Luis, like, let's live this world. Let's enjoy it, right? We only live once. No. So you might feel a little bit despair and a little bit lonely, right? And there's a passage which I really like from Emmanuel that says, in the Christian task, beginning is easy. So excited. I know the answers. Continuing is challenging. And reaching the end is to be crucified. I found that really, falando em português, na tarefa cristã, o começo é fácil. Continuar, Emmanuel fala difícil. Eu mudei para desafiador. Só para eu já começar, né? I should have said that. I just changed a few words. Chegar até o final é ser crucificado. So it is, I think it spoke to me as well, because like, man, it's good that I have all of this, but then it's like there's some responsibility talking to me as well. Because now I know what not the Spiritism doctrine says, you have a list of 10 things you can do, and if you do that, you are successful. No. But I have to take my will and my discernment and make that decision. And the more that I discover about the doctrine, about Jesus' teachings, and about myself, it starts to become, it requires some effort, right? Because I might make some mistakes, I might even knowing what not to do, and I do the same, right? So, and Paul faced a very similar situation. And there's a specific situation. So after Paul encountered Jesus in the way of Damascus, I think it's about, don't quote me, about 3 years later, he had to go back to Jerusalem to encounter with Peter again. But there was a point that he had to go back and talk to his father. Because he kind of disappeared, right? Within his society, his circle. And he went to talk to his father, and his father didn't know what happened to him. Some people would say, yeah, Saul went crazy, cuckoo, like he lost his mind. Oh, maybe he no longer exists. He might have passed away. But he was there. And Saul at that time, went to talk to his father and explain how he encountered Jesus. And his father had to say, it's either you're Christ or me. I thought that, it's like, can you imagine? I tried to put myself in Paul's shoes, talking to my father, that I had to choose to be with my father or to follow, to continue doing this task. I thought it was brutal for Paul. But Paul decided to continue with his work. And what happened? He was devastated after he left that encounter with his father. He was devastated and he was tired, and he went to sleep into not a tent, cavern. Cave. Cavern. I was going to say cavern. Cave.
That's a word too.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
That's a word too.
So he went to sleep into a cave because he was like, what? It's like, what's going to happen? It's like, I had to choose between these two people. Not people, but my father and the work. So when Paul went to the cave, so he went to sleep because he was too tired. And as we know, when we sleep, our spirit is free. So what happened? His spirit was taken to talk to Abigail and Stephen. And look at what Abigail said to him as he encountered. She said, "What is this? Are you crying? Would you already be discouraged when the task is only just beginning?" So Abigail said, with all her kindness, but she was like, don't lose your heart, right? You were just beginning this task. There's more to come. And you are invited, and we'll continue, you are invited to change those thoughts. It's in your mind, Paul saw at that time. It's in your mind where the power resides to shift that situation. As hard as it could be. But would she just say, yeah, just change your mind? I demand you change your mind. That's not how it happens, right? So what she continues, she says that it's necessary to be faithful to God's soul, even if the whole world were to turn against you. You would still possess the inexhaustible treasure of a faithful heart. The triumphant peace of Christ belongs to the diligent soul that obeys and trusts. Do not continue to rebel against the goals. Empty yourself of the thoughts of the world. So here is like that invitation to replace some of those thoughts or the patterns that the world tell us that we should deal with a situation to what the divine laws and what God has put inside of each one of us as seeds that can fulfill whatever mission each one has here. Empty yourself of the thoughts of the world. When you have drained the very last drop of the sour wine of earthly illusions, Jesus will fill your spirit with immortal light. And Emmanuel goes and not describes, as Emmanuel was narrating that situation, and Emmanuel goes and described how Paul felt after Abigail said that to him. He says, experiencing boundless consolation, Saul became so moved that he could hardly say a single word. Abigail's exhortations or sentences would remain with him forever. Never again would he allow discouragement to take hold of him. Never again. An immense hope now overflowed within his souls. So look at the power that each one of us has in our mind to replace the thoughts that are not the ones that can help us move forward. The same way that Paul was discouraged with the fact of choosing between the work with Christ and his Father, as hard as that was, he was invited and he understood this call for renewal of the mind, the renewal of our thoughts, the renewal of our sentiments. Because today we have been bombarded with ways that the world should be, or how the world tells us to deal with certain situations, and how we need to be aware of those. So we can, if we have those thoughts, if we're being pessimistic, how can we change? And it's a constant renewal, because it's a constant transformation for ourselves. So this invitation is not for today, for tomorrow, for next month, for next year. It will be constant, because God will give all those opportunities in our life to be that transformation and to renew our minds. And what does Emmanuel say about our minds? I encourage you, Thought and Life, first chapter, mind, the mirror of life. The way, he says, the mind is the mirror of life and all parts of the world. And he ends saying that the mind is the foundation of life. Because, let's take here, we're a lot of spirits incarnated here in this room. If we give the same situation, can be a social situation here in Calgary, an economical, political, every single one of us will have a different interpretation. Some of us might be in despair. Some of us might be encouraged. Some of us might understand and not know how to feel. Because that's our future. Filter, not future. That's the future of our mind. It's how each one of us understand. And how each one of us will understand the challenges of life. Meaning, it might be a loss, a disease, or not having enough material conditions, what have you. Each one of us will have your own interpretation, and we'll go through that our own way. And everything starts all here in our mind. And I'd like to bring one passage from In the Domains of Mediumship that says that every creature, through the feelings that shape its inner life, emits specific rays and lives within the spiritual wavelength with which it identifies. Each medium, all of us here, we are medium. Some of us might have a mediumship more developed, or not developed, a different type of mediumship. Others might not. But each medium with his or her own mind, each mind with its own race, shaping perceptions and interpretation. Each one of us are sending rays here right now. When we leave here, we go to work, or we go anywhere else, there are rays, there are waves being sent. And it's important for us to see which waves, which rays should I allow myself to come into my mind. And also, what are the types of ways am I sending? Am I contributing? Or am I making this world or making whatever social cycle that I am in worse? So the power of mind is everything starts in our mind. Even when we study about mind, when we think about something, it starts in our mind. It's after that materializes. I thought I want to eat stroganoff. I thought about it. Then I prepared it.
Food, right?
It's all about food. It's easier. It's an easy example, right? So then you make it happen.
Or shopping.
Or shopping. Exactly. I want that part, or I want that thing.
I want that bag.
That bag. Exactly. Yeah. So it's important for us to take a very good care. And as we saw from the example of Paul, even in the most drastic situation, how we are able to cope and able to change. And each one of us will have our discouragements. We will not feel motivated. And will depend on each situation. What one situation might give me discouraged might be different for Anna, might be different for mine. And it's important for us to understand where we are strong and where we need to exercise a little bit of those muscles. Because I also always like to bring a manual. We are in a market of free ideas, or free waves, or free ways. It's up to us to decide which ones are we going to buy. We have that free will, and we decide. And even if you regret buying, that's okay, as long as we understand and say, oh, right, it's a bad purchase of ideas or rates. Let me rephrase it. Let it out, right? And there are so many ways that we can do that. We can meditate, we can pray, we have professional help that can help us to educate and help us become a better manager of our minds. And one key virtue that Emmanuel will talk about in the second chapter is about the will. Do I have that will to make that change and just let it out, all the bad rays, the bad waves that might have come into my mind? That will needs to be the CEO or the manager of the mind. So he or that, the will can help us and make that distinction and make the work to make the change. Does that make sense?
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I want something and I can't put myself to do it. And then I'm thinking, but I feel about, like you said, about the will, right?
Mhm.
Like, but I really want, but what I notice, and I'm not saying that I notice the cause of it, but I notice for myself that sometimes maybe I'm having some secondary gains staying in that situation. And because it's not that I don't want, I want to see whatever final result, or I want to change some things, but then, like, why am I not able? Well, I am able and capable, I'm just not doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then now you mentioned the will, I was thinking like, well, what is happening there? That for some things that will is not happening.
So Emmanuel will talk
Right.
about in the office of our minds, there is the department of desire, desejo. That desire is the one that gives us, it's like, okay, let's go. But when that desire is left on his own, without action or without the control of the will, we will do whatever pleasures that desire, right? Our passions, which are good, because it keeps us moving. But when they are not controlled, it takes us to paths that are not the ones that we're invited to follow. So that department maybe takes over, right? So yeah, the boss is out. The CEO has resigned. So now I'll take care of this. And then it will go into some things that are not good for ourselves.
And I think for me, that's where I say the secondary gains, and I'm not sure what some specific things, what is that with me, but there's something that I'm not doing, I'm not seeing yet, to act on some things. So,
In English, they'd say there's a difference between will and willingness to do something.
that's
Right.
perfect.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
will is
yeah.
like the strength of character
Yeah.
to carry something through. Willingness is actually wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a huge disconnect
That
between the
is-
two.
that
That's a
is
good
good,
point,
yeah.
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 Good
And,
point.
and so to your point,
I might have
Dan,
will, but not willingness.
yes, and the secondary gain is just that you realize that there are aspects to what you're doing that you maybe deep down like,
Yeah.
and maybe
Well,
deep
that's
down
that-
is
yeah,
comforting,
exactly.
right? And even if you recognize it's not the best thing to do, there's something about it that you've attached yourself to, that you draw some satisfaction from.
That's
And
right.
so that can, self-sabotage yourself,
Yeah.
because you might have all the strength in the world, but if you don't really want to apply it,
Yeah.
are you really going to get anywhere?
Yeah. I
So
think
in
you
that vein-
resumed really well.
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
So I have this question for us. How to keep ourselves encouraged and continue the work within ourselves? How to keep going? What do you tell me? How to keep going? To practice that willingness.
To find a purpose.
So,
To find a purpose.
find a purpose.
To trust that we are able to do that.
Yeah.
Pray.
Pray.
Serve.
I was waiting for who is going to read my chat GPT.
I was like, oh, this is weird to
Exactly.
There's the.
But yeah, so purpose, study. So Kardec is a great advocate, and everything that Kardec wrote about it is about education. Not education in the sense of learning a formula, math or something, but the education to change our minds by changing our habits, changing our patterns. Things that we've been doing for I don't know how long, and we keep doing here, and we have another opportunity to change. But yeah, educating ourselves. Serving. Serving for the good. It doesn't need to be anything big and grandiose, right? Serve your neighbor or the one that you are living within the same house, your family. Forgiveness, charity, understanding that the other is as imperfect as I am. And above all, love. Because love is the only thing that will change us. There's no other way. No other way. So all of that is, what are those? Those are the things that help us transform us and restruct our mind. Restruct the way of our thinking. Because we've been thinking this way for a long time. And through the divine mercy, we are here again to change and attempt and do the best that we can to change. So all of this I took from a lecture from Artur. And Artur is kind of, when he's talking about mind, he says, we can choose to have a very narrow mind. I like that. A narrow mind that, oh yeah, it's all about this earth here. Everything is transitory. I'm just thinking I have to survive this world. And it's all about the material aspect. So that's a narrow mind. But a mind in expansion is, okay, there's something beyond this, right? There's something that God has given us as the divine laws, as an opportunity. Because that wouldn't be fair, that him, like God putting us here, like figure it out. You know what you're doing. No, he gave all the divine laws to guide us. And the virtues that we can do to practice and abide or follow the divine laws. And everything that happens in our way to come here, that will happen tomorrow at work with the family, are possibilities, stimulus, lessons, tests that are for us to change. Being someone that was rude to us, if we have a family WhatsApp group, who does a family? It's great. Family WhatsApp group is one of the best ways for us because there's a lot there, right? We are all kind of passionate. And
Lots of opportunities.
lots of opportunities, right?
That's
Lots
all
of
it
stimulus,
is.
right?
Just the pictures.
Yeah. So how do I choose to be narrow or look beyond? Using all the material, the teachings, and what Kardec helps us with the Spiritism doctrine and understanding what Jesus has taught us, so we can expand and can have, again, I love study about hope and how we can hope and persevere, even though we are inundated of stimulus that, if we have a narrow mind, it's like, oh, I don't care, this is unfair, I'm not going to do it. And we reframe it to, this is an opportunity for me to make a change. There's something here for me to make a change. There are two things that I like to talk, and that for me was the highlight. Remember, Paul says, do not conform. Não se conformar. Conformar e inconformar. Conformity and inconformity. So what should we conform with? That's a reflective question. What should we conform with? And how should we behave with inconformity? Como que a gente se comporta se conformando e como que a gente se comporta inconformando? Before I talk, what do you think? Are we conforming with the right things? Or are we inconforming with the right things? What do you think?
I can give you an example of inconformity, something simple and life. It's like music. If you turn on the radio, most of the music they're talking, it's bad, but it's everywhere. And it just, well, that's the normal, right? But then you have to keep your mind alert, like, no, like, talking, it's so bad, the quality, it's just music to stay in our brain and cell. There are a few musics that are like really elevating your spirits and actually adding something good. But it's there, you go to a store, you go to the music, and it's like just bang, 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 music. So I think in conformity, in this example, would be like, well, I don't have the choice sometimes, like it's there, I can put my AirPods, but but it's staying alert, like this is not good for me, or making conscious choices, like I'm gonna put some good music that talks about good things.
Yes, exactly like that. Artur mentions that sometimes we practice inconformity with the wrong things. So for example, maybe I am presented with a disease. I have something that I have to go through. What happens, what is one of my choices? Oh, God is so unfair. How dare? I've been doing everything that I can, and now I'm giving this? So what I'm doing, instead of taking an opportunity to learn with whatever that challenge is, instead of putting love, what I put? Rebellion. I revolt. Say, I can't, this is not fair to me. Is that what we are invited to do? No, right? Because that situation, whatever that is, has a purpose. And if that was presented to myself or to anyone else, there is a purpose for myself, do my part, whatever I can. I'm not saying that, oh yeah, now that I have this, it's all in God's hand. I have nothing to do, I accept. That's not what we're saying here.
Like
It's-
I'm not using any medication,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna look for treatment.
what have you, but it's important, I can do my part, but I practice resignation. I understand, if I do my part, the rest will follow. And if that happened in my life, there is a purpose for that. There's some sort of lesson for us to understand. On the other way, sometimes we conform, maybe with the music. So yeah, everybody's listening, right? Everybody's listening, I will listen. Sometimes we might judge those that are in power or have influence. It's like, oh, that's not the way of doing things. But in my own way, I do the same. I practice the same. Or I use the same patterns of the world to fix something. One example, violence. Sometimes we want to fix violence with more violence. So we're trying to fix a problem using with the same problem. So it's like that we conform, even though we might say, oh, that's not how we do it, or how person A should do it, we do the same way. Because we let some of our individualism, it's my own interest, gotta do that. Maybe vanity or selfishness, right? And look at the example of Christ. Jesus was the biggest example of conformity as a resignation, because he was crucified and he understood the designs of God. That was part of his journey. Could he have done something different? He sure could.
It has the free will.
Yeah, he could negotiate it with Pilatus and say, hey, let's change a few things here and there, right? But no, he refused to do that. He wanted to show how to cure or how to solve the challenges with things that the world doesn't understand, which is love, which is forgiveness. And he allowed himself, and he said, they don't know what they're doing, because we are still in that ignorance. So he renounced himself. He could have done something, he could have negotiated, and he could have used the patterns of the world, the tools that the world has, to not be crucified. But he kept going. He resigned. And he refused to do that. So what is an invitation for us if we are presented to solve some sort of situation, as small as it can be? When I was reading this, I was like, okay, Luis, stop and think how you are behaving in certain aspects of your life. You are seeing a problem and trying to use the same problem to fix the problem. It's like, duh. Pay attention. But be gentle. Let's be gentle to ourselves as well. Right? So it's important. And sometimes it's automatic. It's like, oh, we do this, right? And nowadays, the world is so, like we have social media, right? Everybody believes like, I should voice my concerns on Instagram. That's the way of solving the world's problem. And actually, Arthur mentioned, and unfortunately, I was dragged in my Instagram and looking some people complaining about the Spiritism movement. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, we should like put it on Instagram what people are doing right or wrong. And then Arthur, a friend asked him, he's like, yeah, we need to be vocal and tell it. And then Arthur said, have you tried to pray? And then the guy is like, yeah, sure. So what would that help? I'm just putting on the Instagram everything what is wrong with the world. But what I can do in educating myself, praying, studying, and being that example, right? Being that one that make the change. That's what we have under our control.
You can conform with the world, or you can complement and cooperate with God.
Exactly.
And
Well said.
the choice is yours.
Yeah. And each one we have all those choices. And again, I was like, it's okay. Sometimes we make the wrong choices. The important is reassess and make the changes.
There is, Luis, there is a very classical experiment in conformity, like I think lots of people already heard about that. It was around the 70s that they did the prison cell experiment. And some of the students, it was in Stanford, some of the students would play the role of a prison guard, and some would be the prisoners. And until today, like it's a classical experiment that everybody's studying social psychology and stuff. Because even the professor, he didn't predict how harsh the prison guards, like the prison cell, the students that play this role, how harsh they would have to be, and how dangerous it was. So it is the study basically showing how people do conform to roles, and they follow, and they even take the next
Extreme.
step, right? And when you show like those two sides, it's just like at some degree how all of us, we kind of conform and we play roles, especially if we are not practicing these like discernment or reflecting upon that. Like lots of times we are not making choices, but the world or other people are making choices to us. For example, I think social media is one of those. I remember it was in CBC News, one of those podcasts or interview, and they were talking to someone that is from IT, and he was saying, hey, what we are doing with social media, even the most level-headed person, you're just feeding your brain with Doritos. It's like very low nutrition value, and you just can't stop eating that. So we have to be very careful because unfortunately, like marketing, AI, they all know that, and they are using for your own disadvantage. And we are also conforming. So when you're talking about Instagram and all that, especially on like those who are parents, like on developing brain, this is super dangerous.
Super dangerous, exactly. And even, it's a super simple example, but sometimes with my kids, they are yelling, and then I yell at him to stop.
Like a kid.
Like a kid.
You go loud,
Dude,
just surpass what
It's
they
like,
do.
stop yelling! It's like, why you were yelling that? It's like, what's the point?
And you are
Right?
like a mirror for them.
Exactly.
I
So it's
The hardest part is for you to bring to the conscious
Yes.
what you was doing is not wrong, but conforming with something, or even like, oh, I need to change my mind and be more.
Yeah.
I'm narrowing this subject. It's so hard for you to bring me to close that you're really being narrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, I don't know if it's a good example,
Yeah.
but for example, I conform when I see my neighbor need help,
Yeah.
and I ignore her. But I am in conformity when I do something for her and
Mm-hmm.
give a favor for her because she needed it.
Yeah.
This is a good example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you need it. That person, and I'm able to help. I have the skills, time, tools, whatever. I provide some help.
Because sometimes, you know, you don't feel good if you see somebody need help,
Mhm.
neighbor, you know, so you
Yeah.
know, they need.
It's a.
So you
It's
know,
an invitation from God.
yeah, and you know you can do something for her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Paul, I didn't know this, but there's a. You know that I love the chapter 2, item 5 from the Spirit's
Point of view.
right? Point of view.
Thank you for teaching me about that, because I read it now, I love it as
Yeah.
well.
But there's a passage from the first letter to Corinthians, chapter 15, and Paul says, if only for this life we have hope in Christ. Only this life we have hope in Christ. Nowhere else. We are of all people most to be pitied. Pena, they're pena. So the hope for Christ, it's just not for Luis now with 43-year-olds. It's much beyond this. It's much beyond my life. And also, if we look at what has happened since Christ has born, people are being killed. And that was circus. People would go and watch for people to be eaten by lions. So there is a big evolution that has happened already. It's important for us to recognize that. And there will be more. That's why I like the point of view. Because there is more. We don't know exactly what is that more, but we know that's a more that is good for us. That is based on love.
I guess in conformity at that time would be like, no, I'm not going to the circus watching people getting killed.
Yeah.
But everyone is going.
As everyone is going, yeah, why
What's the
not?
problem?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Exactly. And when I like what Arthur said, when we are kind of angry, maybe with a friend or someone, he says, are you feeling dissatisfied, my friend? How much have you already transformed yourself to demonstrate your dissatisfaction? So you're seeing someone that you in conformity. But how much of myself have I already done so I can demonstrate and show another way of doing it? I found that because it puts on me. It's about me. I cannot change anyone here outside myself. So what am I doing already to make that change and show what is not to conform, right? And every transformation requires the renewal of our minds. Everything that we're transforming, from small to big, the mind plays a pivotal role. And as we were talking about conformity, comfort, Arthur brings something that the peace, a paz de Cristo, the peace of Christ, somehow needs to generate discomfort from us. And I like that. Because if I'm receiving that light from Jesus, and I look at myself, and there is something that is not jiving, I need to feel discomfort. Otherwise, how am I going to change? In all the books from the Spiritism doctrine, there are some questions there. If you try, keep reading. There are some questions that are like, ooch, I was not expecting this. Yeah. There's one that's my favorite when the Kardec says, isn't it really hard to change? Isn't it? Like, tell me, it is, right? And the Spirit says,
It is, right?
yeah. And the Spirit says, It's very simple. What lacks you
Yeah.
is the power of love. When I read that, it's like, damn, that's was not
We're
accepted.
not having the will,
Yeah.
will and.
Willingness. I was expecting the Spirit says, yes.
It's very.
I
It's very-
agree,
it's
you can do it, but
yeah.
I know it.
And they were very, no, very blunt. No, it's so simple. It's just required that. And that just shakes us. So, ooh, put me in my place. So I can think, right?
Even this idea that you shared about, you know, the path and the comfort level. In English, I find there's also, just like will and willingness, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so I oftentimes feel, is it really meant to be uncomfortable, or is it just meant to take us outside of our comfort zone?
I think that's a better word, yeah. Because you can feel uncomfortable with change and understanding that change, but it can be outside of your comfort zone.
And
this is different from you.
exactly, and it can be comfortable outside your comfort zone, even though it's not something that's normal for you.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for giving that. Yeah.
And then it gets back to what the Spirit's saying. It's easy.
Yeah.
At that point, it's simple,
Yeah.
and it's easy.
Yeah.
It's just something new.
Yeah.
And you can choose whether or not that's going to be something new that you don't like and is uncomfortable, or something new that you can be open to. And actually, I heard a quote recently for F1 drivers, actually, that really hammered this point home. Is like, the thing that you try to teach every single race car driver is to become very comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And that marks the success of an exceptional driver. And so I feel like maybe, you know, in life it's applicable as well. It's not about necessarily, you know, suffering through everything. It's just learning to become comfortable.
Navigate that.
Yeah, navigating
Yeah.
outside what's normal for
Yes.
us.
Good. And on that, I like to end with what Arthur says. The gospel is that which comforts the afflicted and afflicts who are comfortable. I like that. The gospel comforts us that are in that discouragement, the same as Paul. How am I going to do this now? Right? And at the same time, shakes us, afflicts maybe, if we were too outside of our comfort zone. For whatever in us is affliction, it will bring comfort, because it brings hope, encouragement, and inspiration. But whatever is in us, like complacency, it will unsettle. If we're not, that's fine. Yeah, I'm yelling. This battle of the world is getting me what I want. But when I hear what I see, what is the invitation of God? If I'm that complacent, that's an invitation for me to become unsettled and make the change. That's what I have. I hope you like it. I really appreciate this talk from Arthur, and also understanding this moment that Paul went through, which was so hard, and brought Bartholomew next to me when I'm in despair and disencouraged, and now Paul, that went through some difficulties and was able to renew his mind to make the change. So hopefully it inspires all of us to make that change as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let us pray. So with our minds, with our feelings, sentiments, emotions, connected to God, to Jesus, to the guardian angels, be grateful again for this opportunity that we had to exchange ideas, to understand the ways that we are conforming and the right way of conforming with resignation, and how we are the change to show in conformity. How we can follow our Jesus our model and guide, as the example of not using all the patterns of the world, and show us how to use love, forgiveness, resignation, resilience to make those changes. So let's ask that we, through our guardian angel, continue with this thought, that we acquire these waves, those rays of other minds, of good spirits, and all those spirits that are incarnated here helping us. So let us absorb that and let us continue doing this work of renewing our minds so we can transform ourselves into better spirits. And we take the advantage and accomplish everything that we are set up to accomplish while incarnated on this earth. And let's pray that we have a blessed end of our Sunday and a week full of opportunities, possibilities, and stimulus for us to make that change and to be that change.